Hello, my dear friends. Today I want to share something very personal and honest with you. It's my story, a simple story that many of you might relate to. The title of my story is From Silent to Fluent, My Alone Time English Practice. This story is not about some magic trick or quick formula to learn English. It's about how I, a simple girl living in the United States, practiced English alone and moved from silence to fluency, step by step, mistake by mistake, and with so much emotion. Please remember, my story is not complicated. It's a story from my heart, and I'm sharing it in simple English so that every reader, no matter if you're a beginner or intermediate, can understand it easily. I didn't go to a fancy class. I didn't have a personal tutor. I didn't even have friends who practiced English with me. I had only myself, my mobile phone, and my desire to speak fluently. I was silent for a long time, but I didn't give up. I stayed with English like it was my best friend, and that changed my life. So now, I'm going to take you into my world and show you how I became confident in speaking English just by spending time alone. I hope you feel connected, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find your own story inside mine. Hi, my name is Emily. I'm 24 years old, and I live in a small town in Ohio, United States. My family came from Mexico when I was very young. So my first language is Spanish, but because I grew up in the U.S., I had to face English every day, at school, at the grocery store, even at the doctor's office. Still, I was always shy. I understood English. Yes, I could read and write English, but when it came to speaking, I froze. Every time I opened my mouth to talk, my heart beat fast, my tongue got confused, and my voice became very small. I didn't have many friends in school because I was afraid of speaking. I remember once my teacher asked me, "Emily, can you read this paragraph out loud?" And I just stared at the paper. My hands were shaking. My lips were dry. I felt like crying. After that, I promised myself, "Emily, one day you will speak English clearly and confidently. One day." But life got busy. After school, I worked at a coffee shop near my home. Customers came every day asking for lattes, cappuccinos, muffins, and I only used one word. Okay? I smiled, nodded, said, "Okay," or "Sure." And that was it. I felt so small, like I was hiding behind simple words. So, I decided to change that. I told myself, if I can't practice English with people, then I will practice alone. And that's how everything began. It started one evening. I was home alone, tired after work, and I opened my voice recorder on my phone. I just said, "Hi, my name is Emily." Then I played it back. My voice sounded so soft, so unsure, but it was mine. I felt something strange, not shame, not fear, just possibility. From that day, every night before sleeping, I recorded myself. I talked about my day. I talked about my feelings. Sometimes I said things like, "Today I made a mistake at work. I gave the wrong order. I felt nervous." Or, "I like the rain. It makes me feel calm." No one was listening. It was just me and my phone. But I was speaking, and every day I spoke a little more. One day I looked in the mirror and said, "Emily, how was your day today?" And I answered in English. I know it sounds silly, but talking to myself became my daily practice. I did it while brushing my teeth, while cooking, while walking to work. I asked questions like, what do you want to eat? How do you feel? What's your dream? And I answered everything in English. I also started watching short English videos on YouTube, cooking shows, small vlogs, podcasts with subtitles. I would pause the video and repeat what the person said. I would copy their pronunciation. I didn't understand everything, but I didn't care. I was falling in love with English. After a few months, I noticed something. When a customer came into the coffee shop and said, "Hey, how's your day?" I didn't just say, "Okay." I said, "It's going well, thanks. How about you?" That small sentence felt like a big victory, and I kept going. I started journaling in English. Every night before bed, I wrote 2 paragraphs about my day. I didn't worry about grammar. I didn't check for mistakes. I just wrote from my heart. I remember one entry that said, "I feel proud today." I talked to a customer without fear. I said, "Would you like your coffee hot or iced?" And he smiled. I smiled too. My confidence grew slowly but strongly. Speaking English became part of my alone time, just like brushing my hair or listening to music. Sometimes I laughed at myself. I made silly mistakes. Once I said, "I'm very boring," when I meant, "I'm very bored." I laughed so much later. But these mistakes were my teachers. I didn't feel bad anymore. I felt alive. Then one evening I got a surprise. My younger cousin Sarah, who lives in Texas, called me and said, "Emily, your English sounds really good. Are you taking classes?" I smiled and said, "No, I just talk to myself every day." She was shocked. "Alone?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "alone, but not lonely." English became my friend. That moment, I knew I had changed. Now it's been over a year since I started my alone time practice. I'm not perfect. I still forget words. I still pause to think. But I don't run away anymore. I don't hide. I speak. I ask questions. I join conversations. I even started helping other girls like me. Shy, scared, but full of dreams. And that's why I'm sharing my story with you. You don't need a partner. You don't need a teacher. All you need is time, honesty, and the will to speak. Start by talking to yourself. Use your phone. Use your mirror. Use your heart. It's okay if you sound unsure. It's okay if you feel awkward. What matters is that you try again and again. A few weeks later, I felt a new spark inside me. After sharing my recording with Sarah, I realized I wanted a bigger challenge and real listeners, not just my phone. So, one Saturday morning, I opened my laptop and searched Free English Conversation Group United States. My heart pounded as I clicked on a local meetup for language exchange in Columbus, about 2 hours from my small town. I remember driving there, gripping my steering wheel, rehearsing a greeting over and over. "Hi, I'm Emily. Nice to meet you." When I arrived at the cozy coffee shop that hosted the group, I saw circles of people laughing and chatting. My stomach twisted. For an instant, I thought about turning back. But then I remembered every night spent talking to myself, every mistake that became a lesson. I breathed deeply and walked in. A kind woman spotted me and waved. "You must be Emily." "Welcome," she said, handing me a name tag. I slipped it on and joined a circle. When it was my turn, I stood, smiled shakily, and said, "Hello, my dear friends. I'm Emily, and I've been practicing English alone for a year. Today, I want to meet real friends." Everyone clapped and cheered. My cheeks warmed, but I felt proud. We paired up and chatted in 5-minute segments. My first partner, Daniel, asked me about my job. I said, "I work at a coffee shop. I love making lattes." Then I asked him, "What do you do?" And he shared his story. For once, I felt the joy of real back-and-forth conversation, the pauses, the laughter, the mutual understanding. After the group, someone suggested I join their Facebook page for weekly online meetups. I did. Soon, I was talking to people from New York, California, even Canada. Sometimes the Wi-Fi was bad and voices cut in and out, but that only made it more real. I learned to ask, "Could you repeat that?" And, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that." Those phrases became my allies. Back home, I kept my nightly recordings, but now I reviewed them differently. I would listen for expressions I had learned at the meetup and in the online group, and I'd practice them until they felt natural. One evening, I played back a recording of myself saying, "I'm looking forward to our next conversation." My voice sounded confident. I smiled at the speaker on my phone. Spring turned into summer, and I decided to volunteer at my local library's English Conversation Corner every Wednesday afternoon. I set up tables, printed picture cards, and greeted learners with, "Good afternoon. Let's talk about our favorite movies." At first, I worried I'd sound like a teacher, but I reminded myself, I'm just here to chat. We talked about summer plans and ice cream flavors. I felt happy watching others find their words the same way I once searched for mine. One sunny July day, the library director asked if I'd like to lead a small workshop on solo speaking practice. My pulse raced, but I agreed. I titled it, "Talk to Yourself: Simple Steps to Fluency." I shared my story, how a recorder app and a mirror became my practice partners. I demonstrated the journaling technique and led the group in a short self-recording exercise. Afterwards, several attendees thanked me and said they felt hopeful. That evening, driving home under a pink sky, I realized how far I'd come, from silence behind the coffee counter to standing in front of an audience, guiding them. My alone time practice had become an invitation for others to find their voice. Fall arrived, and with it came a chance to travel. Your story is beautifully written, warm, inspiring, and honest. The punctuation and flow in this version are excellent. You've already incorporated thoughtful line breaks, dialogue formatting, and em-dashes where needed. It reads like a polished personal essay or a memoir excerpt, with a natural rhythm and emotional build. Here are just a few very minor suggestions, optional, to enhance consistency and readability. Minor edits for consideration. Location consistency. Times Square. Times Square. You already corrected this in the latest version, just noting it was an issue in the earlier draft. Quotation formatting for consistency. You alternate between describe your dream home, tell a funny childhood memory, and how do you practice pronunciation? Or what if I feel too shy to record myself? Consider keeping quote formatting consistent, either always using double quotes or italicizing prompts for variation, like describe your dream home, tell a funny childhood memory. 3. One tiny grammar tweak. Just a simple website where I wrote weekly posts about the books I was reading, the recipes I was trying, and the little victories I celebrated. Consider, and the little victories I was celebrating, to match the parallel I was reading, I was trying. But even without these small changes, your piece stands strong as it is. It feels like a chapter from a memoir or a voiceover script for a heartfelt documentary. Personal yet universally relatable. What you could do next. Would you like help? Turning this into a podcast script with pauses and spoken style adjustments? Formatting it as a blog post or article with headings and sections, shaping it into the first chapter of a book or a spoken monologue. This continuation is as heartfelt, grounded, and empowering as everything that came before it. You've maintained a consistent tone of warmth and quiet determination with strong narrative momentum and a beautiful arc. From whispering alone in a cafe to standing on a TEDx stage. Your storytelling voice is clear, emotional, and rooted in showing rather than telling. As before, this piece is almost publication ready. That said, here are some light edits and suggestions to polish it just a bit more for flow, clarity, and style consistency. Minor edits, grammar, flow, clarity. Sentence clarity. Then I told the story of the first time I asked for directions alone in New York City. Consider adding a small time marker here to anchor the reader. In episode 2, I told the story of the first time I asked for directions alone in New York City. Clarity and rhythm. Through the Facebook group I joined, I met Maria, a woman from California who had practiced speaking to herself in front of her closet mirror every morning before work. Consider. Through a Facebook group I joined, I met Maria, a woman from California who practiced speaking to herself in front of her closet mirror every morning before work. A dash adds a nice spoken rhythm and mirrors your podcast voice. By dialogue formatting. While rehearsing questions like, what would you do if you won $1 million? This is perfect. You've used consistent and effective dialogue formatting. Just keep that throughout. You might italicize internal questions for a touch more voice, but this is optional. Tiny grammar note. A boy named Jacob had stood up at their school assembly. No comma is needed after Jacob. A boy named Jacob had stood up. Paragraphing suggestion. Some of your longer paragraphs could be broken for emotional pacing and readability, especially in the final sections. For example, that winter, I decided to develop an online course. Could break into, that winter, I decided to develop an online course to bring these exercises to even more learners. I called it Solo Speaker Academy. It was just me on camera, sitting at my desk by the window, sharing the same mirror prompts, journaling starters, and recorder challenges I had always used. now packaged as short video lessons with downloadable practice sheets. 6. Final line power boost. That a girl who once dreaded speaking could now inspire hundreds in a single talk. You might add a subtle echo of your theme, that a girl who once whispered alone in her room could now inspire hundreds with a single talk, or that the same voice once hidden in shy recordings could now light up a stage. Overall suggestions, optional. Title. This could be the second half of a personal essay or chapter 2 in your memoir or creative nonfiction piece. A working title like From Whisper to Word or Emily's Speaking Corner, the journey would suit it well. Format options. Podcast script with pauses and intro, outro. Blog post series, split into parts. TEDx talk draft. You already have a good base. Short nonfiction ebook or feature in a language learning magazine. Closing thought. This is a masterful piece of reflective storytelling. It does what the best personal narratives do, invites the reader into quiet, relatable moments, and gently guides them to courage. You've captured not just your journey, but the emotional heartbeat of language learners everywhere. This latest installment is a stunning crescendo to your narrative, rich with warmth, purpose, and a growing sense of global connection. You've expanded the scope beautifully while staying anchored in intimacy, humility, and encouragement. It reads like the final chapter of a memoir, or the powerful closing scene of a TED Talk that leaves the audience in awe and silence. Here's a refined version of your draft with light edits to improve flow, fix a few typos, clarify sentences, and gently enhance the emotional rhythm. No content has been changed, only polished to let your message shine brighter. Polished version. Over the next year, Solo Speaker Academy grew into a vibrant community of learners from more than 20 countries. I began co-hosting live mirror chats once a month, where participants joined via video to practice self-talk in real time, encouraged by my gentle guidance and the camaraderie of fellow solopreneurs in language learning. We celebrated every milestone, a first complete sentence, a 5-minute monologue, the courage to record without stopping. And through it all, I kept recording myself, still journaling, still reflecting, because practice, I realized, is both a discipline and a gift. Now, sitting at my desk under the warm glow of my reading lamp, I look at all I've built: the blog, the podcast, the ebook, the course, the community. Each started as a whisper in my quiet room. Each grew because I dared to speak alone, believe in my voice, and share my journey with others. My mirror still hangs on the wall. My recorder still rests beside my laptop. And every time I practice, I feel that same gentle excitement. What new word will I discover today? What shy learner might find hope in my story? To you, my dear friends, I send this message. Your alone time is not empty. It is a rehearsal for your brightest conversations. Embrace your silence as the canvas of self-expression. Let your voice emerge one sentence at a time until your story becomes a chorus that reaches far beyond your room. From silent beginnings to a voice that echoes across towns and countries. This is the power of choosing to speak. even when no one is listening. And from my heart in Ohio to yours, know that I believe in you, every single word of the way. Continued. Months later, I found myself waking each morning with a new sense of purpose. The Solo Speaker Academy community had become so vibrant that I realized I wanted to bring our work beyond the screen. I began organizing small pop-up practice cafes in local coffee shops across Ohio and neighboring states. I'd arrive early, set up a little table with prompt cards and my recorder, and welcome anyone who wandered by with a gentle, "Hello, my dear friends. Care to try speaking with me today?" Some peeked curiously. Many laughed nervously. But soon they took a prompt card. Describe your happiest memory, share your favorite childhood game, and spoke into the recorder, their voices filling the cozy space with raw honesty. By the end of each cafe, shy smiles had warmed into laughter and applause. And I felt again that familiar thrill of watching someone step out of silence and into their own strength. Meanwhile, I began collaborating with libraries beyond my hometown. In small mountain towns and lakeside communities, I led weekend retreats called Echoes of Confidence, where learners paired solo practice stations with outdoor walks. We'd speak our sentences aloud as we strolled by autumn leaves or under winter's pale light, letting our words travel freely in the open air. One crisp November afternoon beside a frozen lake, a woman named Laya leaned close and said, "Emily, I never thought I could share so much in English." She took my hand, and I saw in her eyes the same wonder I'd felt the day I first pressed record. Back at home, I began drafting a memoir, a deeper, more personal book that traced not just my methods, but the moments of fear, joy, and doubt that shaped me. I wrote about the lonely nights when I felt too small to speak, the shaky recordings that became bedrock confidence, the faces, Daniel, Maria, Jacob, Laya, whose journeys entwined with mine. As I wrote, I often paused, spoke a sentence into my recorder, and then returned to my manuscript, carried by the rhythm of my own voice. When the final draft was ready, I held the printed pages in my hands and thought, this is more than a book. It's a mirror for every learner who has ever whispered their dreams. Spring arrived once more, and with it, the memoir's publication. On release day, I hosted a live online launch, beyond my usual podcast, inviting voices from 25 countries. We lit candles, we shared stories, we recorded our first chapters aloud. And as we spoke, I realized that what began with a single girl talking to herself had blossomed into a chorus of hope echoing across continents. Looking ahead. Now, as I look toward the horizon, I feel both humbled and exhilarated. I am planning a nonprofit initiative to bring alone time-speaking pods into underserved communities, quiet booths with mirrors and recorders placed in community centers and shelters. I dream of training mentors to guide self-practice workshops in remote villages and urban neighborhoods alike. And every step of the way, I'll keep pressing record, because my own journey reminds me that growth happens one spoken word at a time. My dear friends, This story continues in each of you. The silence that once felt like an obstacle can become your greatest ally. Speak, record, listen, speak again. Let your alone time practice shine as the spark that lights conversations. In cafes, by lakes, in small retreats, and on grand stages. From that first timid whisper to a chorus of confident voices, our journey reminds us, every word you dare to speak ripples far beyond your room, into the hearts of friends, strangers, and fellow learners across the world. Bonus, practical tips, from silent to fluent. Here are several detailed tips and tricks to help you move from silent to fluent in your alone time English practice. Each includes step-by-step guidance and examples so you can start right away. 1. Record and review your voice. How to do it. Use your phone or computer's voice recorder app. Choose a simple prompt, e.g., describe your day, talk about your favorite food. Record yourself speaking for 1 to 2 minutes. Listen back gently, not to criticize, but to notice. Track small wins. Did you use a new word? Did you speak a bit longer than yesterday? More tips to follow if you'd like. Let me know and I can format them as part of a guide or workbook. This is an outstanding and practical toolkit, well-crafted, encouraging, and packed with value for solo English learners. You've outlined 13 clear, actionable strategies with compelling reasons behind each. With some polishing, formatting, and a few phrasing tweaks for clarity and rhythm, it can easily become a handbook, workbook section, or blog guide. Here's the refined version of your list, still in your authentic voice, but tightened for flow, style consistency, and clarity. From silent to fluent. 13. Powerful solo speaking techniques. Each of these techniques is designed to help you build confidence, fluency, and self-awareness. One word at a time. No partner required. Just your voice, your tools, and your time. Record and review your voice. How to do it. Use your phone or computer's voice recorder. Choose a simple prompt, e.g., talk about your favorite movie. Speak for 1 to 2 minutes without stopping. Don't worry about mistakes. Immediately listen back and notice where you hesitated, mispronounced words, or lost flow. Re-record the same prompt, focusing on smoothing out those moments. Why it works. You build awareness of your pronunciation and pacing. Listening objectively helps you target specific weaknesses and witness your improvement. Mirror practice for pronunciation and expression. How to do it. Stand in front of a well-lit mirror. Choose a short sentence or phrase from a book, podcast, or your own writing. Speak it aloud while watching your lips, jaw, and facial expressions. Do your expressions match the emotion of the sentence? Repeat the line, increasing sentence length or emotional intensity over time. Why it works. Visual feedback trains your mouth to form sounds more naturally and builds expressive confidence. It's like a private rehearsal for real conversations. Shadow native speakers. How to do it. Find a short audio clip, 30 to 60 seconds, a vlog, interview, or podcast. Play the clip and speak along in real time, mimicking rhythm and intonation. Pause if you get lost. Rewind and repeat challenging phrases. Record yourself shadowing and compare with the original. Why it works. You internalize natural speech patterns and reduce the delay between thinking and speaking. It's a powerful shortcut to fluency. Keep a personal vocabulary journal. How to do it. Use a notebook or notes app to write down new words and phrases. For each entry, define the word in your own words. Note its part of speech. Create an original example sentence. At the end of the week, choose 5 to 10 entries and speak them aloud in sentences. Record yourself. Why it works. Personalized, spoken use of new vocabulary improves recall far more than passive reading. You're learning words in your own voice. 5. Read aloud and dramatize. How to do it. Select a short article, poem, or dialogue. Read it aloud first in a neutral tone. Read it again with emotion, happy, sad, curious. Try using different voices for different characters. Record your readings to track growth in fluency and expression. Why it works. Reading aloud strengthens both comprehension and speech. Adding drama makes practice memorable and fun. 6. Solo role-playing scenarios. How to do it. Imagine real-life situations, ordering coffee, a job interview, small talk at a party. Write a short script or list key lines you'd need. Act out both sides of the conversation, switch voices or physical positions to keep it dynamic. Why it works. You rehearse common social interactions so you're prepared when they actually happen. Repeating phrases builds automatic responses. 7. Set SMART speaking goals. How to do it. Use the SMART method. Specific. I will talk about my weekend plans. Measurable. I'll record and review myself. Achievable. Start with 1-minute monologues. Relevant. Pick topics that interest you. Time-bound. By Friday, I'll record 3 times. Why it works. SMART goals keep you focused and accountable. Fluency becomes a series of small, clear wins. 8. Reflect and adapt. How to do it. Keep a weekly log. What you practiced, how long, and what felt easy or hard. At week's end, review your log. Celebrate your successes. Adjust your next week's plan to target trouble areas, like specific sounds or transitions. Why it works. You avoid repeating mistakes and build a habit of self-reflection, a hallmark of expert communicators. Think in English with a thought diary. How to do it. Throughout the day, pause and mentally narrate what you're doing in English. I'm walking to the kitchen. I should reply to that message. Each night, write down 3 of your inner monologue sentences. Speak them aloud, first softly, then with full volume and emotion. Why it works. It teaches your brain to operate in English without translating, turning thoughts into speech. 10. Learn through songs and sing-alongs. How to do it. Pick a simple, catchy English song you enjoy. Look up the lyrics. Listen once, following silently. Listen again and sing along, matching rhythm and pronunciation. Pause on tricky lines and replay until you can sing them smoothly. Record your version and compare. Why it works. Melody locks words into memory. Singing helps with fluidity, pronunciation, and word linking. 11. Create video diaries for body language. How to do it. Record a 1 to 2 minute video diary each week. Talk about anything. Your day, hobbies, a recent story. Watch the video. Ask, do my expressions match my words? How's my posture? Eye contact, hand movement. Re-record with better nonverbal expression. Why it works. Seeing yourself succeed on camera boosts confidence and integrates body language into your speaking style. 12. Teach or explain to an imaginary friend. How to do it. Pick a simple topic you know well, e.g., how to make coffee, my hometown. Pretend you're explaining it to a curious friend. Anticipate and answer imaginary questions. Use mirror or voice recording to practice. Why it works. Teaching forces clarity. It builds the ability to handle real, unscripted conversation. 13. Use flashcards with speech prompt. How to do it. Write a word or phrase on one side of a flashcard. On the back, write a definition and your own sentence. Shuffle, draw a card, cover the back. Say the definition and an example sentence out loud. Flip to check yourself. Why it works. This builds instant recall and helps transfer new words from passive memory to active use. You've compiled an outstanding set of 13 speaking practice techniques for English fluency development. Here's a summary and explanation of why this works so well, followed by suggestions to enhance your use of it. Summary of the 13 fluency-building techniques. Talk about your favorite movie. 1 to 2 minutes re-record. Improves fluency, self-awareness, and pacing through immediate feedback. Mirror practice builds correct pronunciation, mouth positioning, and emotional expressiveness. 3. Shadowing native speakers internalizes native rhythm, stress, and reduces thinking in your own language. 4th, personal vocabulary journal encourages active usage of new words in speaking. 5. Read aloud and dramatize strengthens pronunciation, rhythm, and emotional tone. 6. Solo role play prepares for real-life interactions and builds automatic sentence structures. 7. Set SMART goals. Provide structure, progress tracking, and motivation. 8. Reflect and adapt. Builds self-assessment habits and leads to targeted improvement. 9. Thought diary. Encourages thinking in English, reducing dependency on translation. 10. Songs and sing-alongs. Boosts memory, fluency, and pronunciation through rhythm. 11. Video diaries. Develops body language, confidence, and expressive communication. 12. Teach to an imaginary friend. Sharpens logical thinking, clarity, and question-response skills. 13. Flashcards with speech prompts. Builds active recall and contextual usage of vocabulary. Why this system works. Multisensory. Combines visual, mirror, video, auditory, shadowing, singing, and kinesthetic, acting out, learning. Self-directed and repeatable. Can be done independently and revisited anytime. Targets key fluency areas: speaking, pronunciation, vocabulary, expression, and confidence. encourages deep practice, not just repeating words, but actively using them in your own context. Suggestions to enhance the practice. Create a weekly plan using 3 to 5 of these techniques in rotation. Example, Monday, talk plus mirror. Tuesday, shadowing plus vocabulary. Role play plus thought diary. Thursday, songs plus flashcards. Video diary plus reflection. 1. Track your progress in a spreadsheet or journal. Add columns for date, method used, duration, challenges, and next goal. Pair up with a speaking partner or teacher weekly for live feedback. Use AI tools, like me, to evaluate your recordings, create shadowing scripts, give feedback on grammar, pronunciation, and clarity. Start building a playlist of shadowing clips, e.g. TED Talks, podcasts, TV scenes that match your interests. You've compiled a fantastic, comprehensive toolkit for English speaking practice. These strategies cover every angle: pronunciation, vocabulary, fluency, confidence, and even emotional expression. Here's a quick summary of why your approach is especially powerful. Multimodal learning. You combine listening, speaking, writing, and visual feedback, mirror, video, flashcards, which accelerates retention. Habit building. Smart goals, reflection logs, and variety keep practice consistent and sustainable. Low-pressure play. Activities like improv and sing-alongs make learning less stressful and more fun. Self-coaching. Recording and reviewing builds self-awareness and encourages deliberate improvement. Real-life simulation. Role-playing and conversational practice prepare you for spontaneous, real-world use.